Hi. What I've done is for everybody that has a recipe, sorry, dog, of the biscuits, I wanted to try to show you how you could do some quick prep work in the morning. What I've done is taken all the dry ingredients. By the way, the flour, the sugar, everything can stay in the refrigerator overnight. Matter of fact, I keep my flour in the refrigerator because everything has to stay chilled or cold. And what I've done is I've mixed it all together with a big whisk, the dry stuff. And just now what I've done is I've cut up the shortening. I use the Crisco butter flavor shortening and kind of crumble it up as best I can. What we're going to do is we're going to cut it in. You can leave the shortening in overnight, but I would not cut it in into the flour until right before, because I'm not sure how the baking soda would react to it. It's probably okay, but I'm not willing to risk a whole recipe of biscuits to find out. This is going to make a mess, I'm going to tell you in advance, but my family loves them, so this is how, they're worth it. Okay, so what you're trying to do is you're going to cut in. This is a pastry cutter. It's old-fashioned. My grandmother used to use her hand just to cut it in. What you're looking for is pea-size granules. You don't want any big granules of the shortening. You just want it evenly dispersed, and that looks pretty good to me. Again, everything cold. All right, so once we've done that, let me put this out of the way. Once we've done that, we're gonna add our buttermilk and our cream. Now what I've done is, this is also something that has to stay freezing cold. So what I do is I went ahead and poured my buttermilk up and my heavy whipping cream, and I put them in the freezer in these glass measuring cups. You can use whatever you have. Don't mix them together, but put them in your freezer for about 5 to 10 minutes because you want them to be ice cold. It's very important. The reason you need everything cold is for the lift, and I'm going to show you that when we get it all together. So we're going to mix this all together. It should be soupy. It should not be, you shouldn't be able to form a biscuit or form anything with it, because it's going to be kind of close to a thick pancake dough, for lack of a better term. Maybe cake dough, something like that. Ice cold. Everything is cold. That's important. Now, we have it mixed in well enough. Now, this is important. We're going to let this rest. We're going to put it aside 2 to 3 minutes at a minimum and let everything work together. Now, what I have here is a pan. We have used white lily flour. That is important because of the gluten and the texture. This white lily is, if you've seen the recipe, you know that they recommended it. It's specific for this type of biscuit because, again, we're looking for a light and lift. This is just regular old-fashioned all-purpose flour. It doesn't need to be fancy schmancy. All we're going to use it to do is to dust the biscuits with. I use Pam, this butter-flavored Pam, and we're going to use that. This is the scoop we're going to use to form our biscuits, just so that everything's uniform size. So I'm going to give it a good swish there. And also, I've made a double recipe today because we're going to do 2 of these small skillets. I want you to notice how big the skillet is in relationship to my hand. These are not full-size skillets. What I've done is I've taken half a stick of butter and divided it in 2, and I put this in the oven. My skillets are warm. The butter is melted. I've also melted butter over here. This is what we're going to use to slather on top. But I tell you that to tell you that this is a pain in the butt to make. So, and I don't want to have to throw any of it away. So as a result, I have these little pie tins, and any leftovers we're going to put in here because I want to use every bit of that biscuit dough. I don't know how many we're going to use, so we're going to do too many of these. Okay, so the oven is on at 475 degrees. What you're looking for is probably 1 rack up from the bottom of your oven. If you get it too close to the top, it's going to brown before the middle biscuit is done. So what you want to do is put it down on the lower one, but you don't want it on the bottom for the same reason. You don't want the bottom to brown before the middle. So I use 1 rack up from the bottom, and that seems to work really well. Because we're dividing our biscuit dough in, well, we have 2 small pans here. I generally set the timer for 20, but I start checking at about 15, 17 minutes and just looking for that golden brown color. At that temp, the middle part should be good and dry and lofty. You'll need to experiment with your oven, because I think mine's just a little bit off, and that's just what works well for me. So we're going to pause the video for a minute, because I'm going to give this dough just a couple more minutes to rise, and we'll come back and I'll show you how I put them in the skillet.